Good evening, everyone, again, and thank you for watching VATV. Our city will have an incoming election on November 3rd. So this evening, we had the honor to introduce to our audience one of the best candidates for Boston City Council at large. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Annissa Essaibi-George.
Very good. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Good morning, Mr. George. You were at this VATV studio on 2013.
Yeah.
Is there any change since then? And you want to reintroduce to our
I'll
audience?
be happy to reintroduce myself. My name's Annissa Essaibi-George, and I'm running for Boston City Council at large. I'm so happy to be here. And over the last 2 years, I've gotten older. My children have gotten older. I need to go to bed a little bit earlier at night, 2 years later. But not much else has changed. I'm still very excited about being a Boston City Councilor, and I hope to get elected on Tuesday, November 3rd. And I'm still talking about the issues that are important to the residents of the city of Boston, because they're issues that are important to me.
Yes, okay. But this is your second run for the city council at large.
Yeah.
And maybe some Bostonians do not know much about you. Can you share with us, with the audience, some of your background?
Yeah, no, I'm so excited to share it. I'm a Boston public school teacher. I've been a teacher at East Boston High School for 13 years. And I talk a lot about education on the campaign trail because that's where I've spent my professional experience, my professional life. I think that as a city, we need to spend more time talking about what's happening in our high schools, especially. We spend a lot of time in the lower grades, but let's talk about our high schools and what we can do better for our children, what's working really well that we can continue doing, and how we can strengthen their academic experience so when they graduate from high school, they're better prepared for college, better prepared for work, better prepared for the life ahead.
Okay. Tell us your work as a community advocacy. How do they help you in this campaign?
Sure. One of the things I've been doing for a number of years now, I think it's been about 10 years, is I've served as a board member at the Dorchester House Health Center. And that's where I get my health care since I was very little. It's my family now goes, my husband, my children, my mom, my sisters. And community health is incredibly important across the city of Boston. And I will, as a city councilor, continue to support our community health centers. I think not only do they provide direct health care, but they also provide community support for the residents of the city in each of the neighborhoods. And in many places, they are the cornerstone of what good things happen. And it's the healthcare piece, it's the mental health care piece, it's community, connecting our community with food resources, with youth activity programming, with senior programming. And that's something that I'll spend a lot more time as a city councilor working to support and encourage.
Usually you say your advantage as a teacher, a business owner, and it seems especially a mother.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I talk a lot about being a small business owner and what that can bring to the city council and that experience can bring. But I'm certainly most proud about being a mom. My husband and I have 4 children, 4 boys, and I have an 11-year-old boy and I have 9-year-old triplets. And I often say that if I can handle those triplets, especially, if I can handle those 4 boys, I can handle City Hall.
Okay. You are the only at-large challenger this year.
Yes.
How did the Bostonians see you apart from other candidates?
Yeah. So in 2013, you might remember there were 19 of us, and it was an incredibly busy year and a lot of attention because we had the mayor's race at the same time. And this year, there's just 5 of us for the 4 seats. So what sets me apart from the 4 incumbents, very simply, is my experience in the classroom. I've been a 13-year teacher in Boston, my experience growing and building a successful business, And taking those two things and really putting them to work for the city of Boston and adding that to what we do at City Hall, what we do on the City Council, I think will be incredibly valuable and incredibly important.
A female candidate, how you feel the proportion at the bottom City Council now?
Well, we have a 13-member body, and right now we have 2 women, and that's a very sad commentary, and it's a very sad factual place that we're at. And not that I'm suggesting that people should simply vote for women because they're women. We want qualified women to run for office. Yeah. But 52% of our city is female, is women. And when our city council doesn't reflect that, it's time to make some change. And that change can happen this year. And I'm really excited to be a part of that.
Okay. Now you talk about you are high school teacher, and you know that a lot of students in the bottom public school speak many languages, and about 1/3 of them is the English language learner.
Yep.
How do you think you can help them?
Sure. Just very quickly, I'm a child of immigrants. My mom, neither of my parents spoke English first. My mother is a Polish native, a Poland native, and she grew up speaking Polish. And then, when her and my grandparents moved to the United States, she learned English. But she didn't learn English until she entered school. My dad is from Tunisia, so he grew up speaking Arabic and French. Didn't learn English until he was an adult, and learned it, became more fluent as an adult here in the United States. I teach at East Boston High School. We have an incredibly large immigrant population, mostly native Spanish speakers. And across our city, we've got pockets of different populations of students and adult immigrants that have come to the United States, and English is not their first language. As a city, we need to do all that we can to support those students that are coming in through the Newcomers Academy. We have a Newcomers Academy, which is wonderful, but it's in one place. We need to make sure that we have Newcomers Academies across the city to support these children, because we too often put them into the classroom based on their age, not knowing their formal education, not knowing whether they are fluent in their native language in the core academics, math and English and history and science. And we need to make sure that we're supporting them as they have a strong foundation in their native language and then create a foundation in English so that they can be best prepared for their life ahead.
That in school, but in our city, there are newcomers keep coming every day, immigrant, refugee, and they want to resettle in our city.
Right.
How you bring all that newcomer go to the mainstream?
Well, we have the Office of New Bostonians that the mayor has done quite a bit of work building and growing in his short time in office. And by supporting that effort in our communities, in our community centers, we can create opportunities to learn English, to develop some language skills, to develop some technical skills and some learning opportunities so that new Bostonians can really become a part of our society. And we want to mainstream new Bostonians, but we also want to honor the culture and the heritage that they bring to the table. We don't want to wipe that away. I grew up in a household with 2 very diverse cultures, Tunisian and Polish, very different cultures. And both of my parents held on pretty tightly to their personal cultures. And I had a great childhood, and it was great growing up in that environment. And we should never ask our immigrant families to get rid of their culture. We want to support that. We want to enhance that. But we also want them to feel a part of the Boston community as a whole.
Yeah. Now, if you get elected to the city council, what is your top priority?
Sure. Well, it's all important. Everything is important. But where I think I can add the most value and where my skill set is most important is certainly in the conversation around education. As a high school teacher and having that experience, I bring quite a deal to the table. But also in economic development and strengthening our small businesses across the city and making sure that what's happening in our neighborhoods is positive, is productive, creates more work, creates more jobs, high quality jobs, high paying jobs. And we can really spend some time focused on that as a city council and contribute to that in a real way. Many years ago, I was a Main Streets director, and the work that happens, the work that our small business owners put into that community, and the support that the residents of those communities give to those small businesses, that's an incredible relationship. And we need to strengthen that across the city. And as much as I love downtown Crossing, as much as I love the seaport, it's beautiful down there. But we need to create opportunities for our small businesses to grow in those neighborhoods. And we've got a lot of national chains that come into the city of Boston in these new developed areas. And we need to remember that we've also got a robust small business community that should be able to reap some of those benefits.
What about housing?
Well, housing is probably the hottest topic in the city of Boston. It's incredibly expensive to live in the city. I think the average cost of a one-bedroom is $2,500, and that's incredibly high. And so there's a few ways that we can fix that, and we can work to fixing that. The mayor has already started an aggressive housing plan and create more housing. For sure, just the economics of that will lower the cost of housing by creating more opportunities. But what we need to make sure that in each of our communities, that we're balancing the housing desires, that we've got a good balance between condos and home ownership opportunities and rental opportunities. And then we also need to make sure that we're balancing the affordable units in some of the new developments, that is happening on site. I like the idea of keeping affordables on site. We also need to work with the state and with the federal government on adjusting the formula to decide what is affordable, because the dollars don't really work out. We call certain housing affordable, but it isn't affordable for our families and for the residents in the city of Boston.
Usually we had a low turnout in our city. Mm-hmm. How do you encourage people to go to vote?
It's probably the most challenging part of campaigning. We know in 2013, because of the large council race, because of the incredibly large and interesting mayor's race, turnout was unbelievably high. But even then, it wasn't great. We had about 140,000 votes cast in 2013. I'm hopeful that we can reach half of that this year. And as part of the campaign, we're targeting voters and trying to engage new voters. But I think over the course of my term in office, that it's important for me to continue to engage voters that are good voters and engage voters that aren't good voters, and get young people registered to vote. When we have large communities where there's more of a transient population, where they're only here for a short period of time and then they move maybe to the suburbs, let's get them engaged while they're here. And perhaps that engagement will increase their level of commitment, and perhaps they'll decide to stay in the city of Boston forever.
You run the campaign across the city. Tell us and share with us some memorable story when you meet ordinary people.
Sure. It's we're all ordinary people with special goals. The city is incredibly big. It is so big, and it's fascinating to me how different each of our neighborhoods are, but how I constantly meet people with the very same goals. They want their neighborhood to be beautiful. They want their neighborhood to be safe. They want it to be welcoming, and they want to remain. They want to stay. And that's perhaps the number one struggle that I see individuals and families have, is that they want to make sure that they can stay in Boston and then they can make this their home forever. Particular people across the city, I can't think of one story because there's just been so many different conversations. But in East Boston, I was door knocking last week, and I met a young girl with her grandmother. And the young girl was in the 5th grade, same grade age as my son, my older boy. And she was just so excited that, there was a woman at the door running for office, and she was so excited that I had pink signs, which was fun. And I felt for a moment that maybe I've empowered her to consider running when she's older.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ms. George. Now, in your last message, why should a Bostonian, a Vietnamese American, should vote for you on November 3rd?
Sure, it's only a few days away now. I'm hoping that every Bostonian considers me for one of their 4 votes on Tuesday, November 3rd. But as a child of immigrants, growing up in a household where my parents worked very hard to make sure that me, my brother, and my sisters had a great education, those cultural qualities are the same, I think, across every immigrant group. And it's something that I find incredibly important and I'll bring with me to City Hall. As a Boston Public School teacher and the thousands of kids I've had in my classroom, I'll bring them with me to City Hall and their spirit and their message and the lessons that they've taught me over the years in my classroom. Building a small business in the city of Boston, it's not easy. It's incredibly challenging work, but it's incredibly satisfying work. And I'll take those lessons learned, both positive and negative and challenging, to City Hall and hopefully use that to support our small business owners across the city. But most importantly, I do it for my children. And I think that's why all of us do the work that we do, is to create a better life and a better community for our kids and make sure that they've got a bright future ahead of them. And I hope that for one of those reasons, you might consider me for a vote on Tuesday, November 3rd.
Thank you very much, Ms. Annissa Essaibi-George. I just want to remind our VATV audience, when you go to the poll on November 3rd, please remember Ms. Annissa Essaibi-George. Number 3 on your ballot. You can cast 4 votes for City Council at large. Have a wonderful week. Goodbye and thank you.